Hi, in this video I'm gonna talk about GCE level maths with a quadratic, and I will go through some of the summary of the key points first, and I will go through some of the questions, and I will select some of the questions from the review exercise in the textbook and also from the past paper. Okay, so before we do some questions, let's get to know about the concept first. So all we have to know is part 2 is quite important when you see the equation like this and you have to find the solution for x. And for part 3 and part 4, I think that if you know how to get the equation from part 4, you'll eventually know how to get the equation from part 3. So not a big deal. You will start to get more familiar with it when you do more questions. And basically, for the part 5 here, this is how I remember it. Domain here usually is x, and range is usually y, and this is how I remember it. And for part 7, I think you also need to know that as well. When you see the equation like this, all you have to focus on is the value here and here. So if this is positive p, then this one here, the x coordinate will be minus p. And if this one here to the right is positive q, then this one will be the same sign. Okay, so last thing you have to get to know is part 8. So easy way to remember it. If there are two distinct real roots, then the discriminant, which is b squared minus 4ac, would be greater than 0. If there's only one, okay, then would be equals to 0. And if there's no real roots, then would be smaller than 0. It's actually pretty easy to remember it. Okay, let's do some questions from the review exercise in the textbook. This is actually question 10 from the page 85. Okay, so let's start off with part A. So x squared minus 8x minus 29 is equals to x plus a bracket square plus b. Okay, so first thing first, we have to separate x squared minus 8x and minus 29 first. And the second step would be big bracket x minus 4, because the value here is minus x, right? Minus 8 divided by 2 would be minus 4. So x minus 4 bracket square, but that is not done yet. The next step we have to do is to subtract brackets minus 4 square and minus 29. And the next step would be big bracket x minus 4 square minus 16, close the bracket, minus 29. So the final step would be x minus 4 close bracket square and minus 16 minus 29 would be minus 45, and that would be the answer, so that you can reach to the form of x plus a squared plus b, and a would be minus 4 here, and b would be minus 45. And to the part b, as we know that x squared minus 8x minus 29 can be written to the form of x minus 4 square minus 45. So I can drag this whole thing here down to the part b, x minus 4 square minus 45. And they want me to show that the root of x squared minus 8x minus 29 equals to 0 are c plus or minus d root 5. Okay, so basically this whole thing here would be equals to 0. And x minus 4 square equals to 45. And the next step would be x minus 4 equals to plus or minus root 45. Next, x would be equals to 4 plus or minus root 45, because I basically moved the 4 from the left to the right. And the final step would be x equals to 4 plus or minus root 9 times root 5, which is x equals to 4 plus or minus root 9 would be equals to 3 root 5. So C would be equals to 4 and D would be equals to 3. Okay, let's carry on with more questions. In these questions, they want us to express this equation here in a form of x minus a squared plus b. Okay, same as the previous questions, we're gonna separate x squared minus 6x plus 18. X squared minus 6x plus 18. Okay, so the second step we have to do is to hold this value. We're not gonna touch it. Big brackets, small brackets, x, because minus 6 divided by 2 would be minus 3. Close the brackets, square, minus this value square, minus 3 square, plus 18. As what I've just said, we're not gonna touch it for a while. And for the part 3, x minus 3 square minus minus 3 square would be equals to 9 plus 18, and the final answer would be x minus 3 square. Actually, I don't need this big brackets. Plus 9. That would be the final answer. So you can return the equation here to the form of x minus a square plus b. And for the part B, they want us to sketch the graph of C showing the coordinate of x and q. So the curve C with this equation meets the y-axis at P and has a minimum point at Q. Okay, so first thing we have to do is to draw a graph, and this one would be y and this one would be x. As you can see in this equation, the minimum point would be 3 and 9, because if this one is a negative sign, negative value, then the x coordinate would be positive. But if this one is positive sign, then this one will be negative. And if you see the value stick with the b is positive, then you can just copy the same sign. Okay, so the q, the minimum point, would be around here. Okay, and q here will be 3 and 9. Okay, and they say that the p would be in the y-axis. So if we substitute the x equals to 0, 0 minus 3 would be minus 3 square, which is 9. 9 plus 9 would be 18. So 18 would be somewhere around here. And this one would be the P point. And the graph should look like this. Should look something like this. Okay, for the part C, they say when y is equals to 41, it meets the curve C at the point of R. So they want us to find the x coordinate. Okay, so when y is equals to 41, okay, and 41 would be equals to x minus 3 square plus 9. And I am gonna swap these two things first. X minus 3 square plus 9 equals to 41. Okay, so x minus 3 square equals to 32. And x minus 3 equals to plus or minus root 32. x would be equals to 3 plus or minus root 32. And the final answer, I'm gonna clean this up, 3 plus or minus, because root 32 would be equals to root 16 times root 2. So root 16 would be equals to 4 root 2. And that would be the final answer. Okay, let's do one more questions and we will move on to some past paper questions. Okay, for question 17, also in page 86 in the textbook. For the part A, they want us to prove x squared plus 2x plus 3 into this form here. Okay, so pretty easy and straightforward. So x squared plus 2x plus 3 equals to, I'm gonna separate this 2 and I'm gonna leave this thing, I'm gonna hold this, I'm not gonna touch it, and big brackets, x plus 2, okay, divided by 2 would be 1, so plus 1, okay, close the bracket, square minus 1 square, close the bracket, plus 3, okay, and then all you have to do is to clean this thing up. X plus 1 square, 1 square would be 1, and minus 1 plus 3 would be plus 2. And this is how you do the part A. And for the part B, they want us to sketch this equation here with a clear coordinate of any intersection with coordinate axis. Okay, so all we have to know is to get to know the turning point, okay, would be, because this one here is positive sign. All we have to know is the turning point would be minus 1 and 2. This one 2 and this one 1. So 1, I just change the sign and I don't change the sign for the y coordinate. Okay, so this one is y-axis and x-axis. Okay, so minus 1 and 2 would be somewhere around here. Yep, somewhere around here. And we have to also find the y coordinate. So we substitute 0 into x value. So 0 plus 1 square would be 1. 1 plus 2 would be equals to 3. So around here. And this would be 0, 3, and minus 1, 2. The graph would look something like this. Yeah, it would look something like this. Okay, let's move on to the part C. They want us to find the discriminant of x squared plus 2x plus 3. Okay, so discriminant would be b squared minus 4ac. And how do you know what is ABC? Okay, so for this equation here, x squared, actually 1 here, 1 bracket x squared plus 2x plus 3. And a would be 1, b would be 2, and 3 would be c. So b squared equals to 2 squared minus 4ac. And here you have it with the answer of 4 minus 12 would be minus 8. As the discriminant is negative value and minus 8 would be smaller than 0, so okay, there's no real roots. Okay, so for the part D, the equation of x squared plus kx plus 3 equals to 0, and the k is a constant, has no real roots, and they want me to find the set of possible value of k and give you answer in surd form. Okay, so the key point in this question here is actually no real roots. What does that mean? It means that b squared minus 4ac is less than 0. And a is equals to 1, b is k, and c would be equals to 3. Okay, so first thing we have to do is to substitute all the values a, b, and c into this equation. K squared minus 4ac
less than 0, which is k squared minus 12 less than 0. Okay, and next step we have to do is to we need to find the critical value of k, and let's assume that k squared minus 12 is equals to 0, because we need to get the critical value. K squared would be equals to 12, and k would be equals to plus or minus root 12, which is, because root 12 can be separated into root 4 times root 3, so root 4 would be equals to 2 and plus or minus 2 root 3. Okay, so next step we have to do is to make a line graph. So here would be minus 2 root 3 and 2 root 3, as 2 root 3 is larger than minus 2 root 3. And I'd put any number between minus 2 root 3 and 2 root 3. Let's say 0, okay? 0 will be not the number between these two values. If I put 0 into k, okay, k 0 squared minus 12 would be minus 12. And minus 12 is a negative value, so I would put a minus sign in here. And if I put minus 10 to the k, which is way smaller than this value, okay, way smaller than this value here, which would be around this side here. And if I put minus 10 square minus 12, minus 10 square would be 100. 100 minus 12 would become 88, which is positive sign. Okay, I'm gonna rub this thing off. Okay, positive. And if I put any number that is larger than 2 root 3, let's say 10, okay, and if I put 10 into k, 10 squared would be 100. 100 minus 12 would be 88. So 88 would be positive sign, and I put positive here. Okay, back to this question here. They want us to find a set of value that is smaller than 0. So all they want is negative sign, all the value with negative sign, negative number. And all we know is the range between minus 2 root 3 and 2 root 3. So the final answer would be minus 2 root 3 smaller than x, k, and k would be smaller than 2 root 3, and that would be the answer.